for those who are at home. So we wanted to follow, wherever possible, the guidelines of city and state regarding gatherings. So thank you for your patience. So let's start over. My name is Matthew Watson, head of school, and I have either met all of you, known you for some time, or I have someone here who's in the process of admissions, and this was the first time we met. So I'm very excited to be addressing you. So what we're going to do tonight, there will not be any breaking news, okay? If you have been following the documents, the communications that we've been putting out in greater and greater specificity over the recent weeks and months, you'll have a pretty good grasp on the principles that are guiding us as we make a decision. So we have made a decision. There was a decision in front of us to follow what many of the surrounding districts were doing and postponing the start of school, or there was a decision to be made to carry on with our August 12th start date. We decided to carry on. The reason we did that is because we believe that a person or a community endures a crisis not simply to still be around to endure the next crisis, but because they endure for the joy set before them. They endure because they are aiming at something beyond mere endurance. And civilizations, cultures, always, if they are healthy, have held the formation of their youth to be, after all the farming, after all the defense, after all the commerce, actually before all those things, to be their primary task. And so certainly as this pandemic dawned on us, came over the horizon, we were not clear what we were facing. And we sheltered in place. We all did. But as time goes on, we recognize that that cannot be a permanent setting. So our watchword has been proceed with caution. Proceed with caution. What we're going to be doing tonight is really be offering a commentary on the documents that you've been receiving. And I'll wiggle the mouse over here in a moment and show you where on the website those are archived. And if you haven't taken the time to really go through them line by line, I would encourage you to do that after tonight. Hopefully, if anything, we pique your interest to do that. But if we look at those as our guiding documents, our texts, we have begun to live them out. So you saw a moment ago my prowess with the face shield. I've been practicing. Not too much, but I've been practicing. We started in service on Monday. The common room is on the second floor. It's a large room, much like this. And if you were to go up there, you will see desks arranged in a semicircle, spread way out. And if you were to go in there during the morning hours of the days, beginning on Monday, you would see us wearing masks. You would see the presenter carefully removing their mask and putting a face shield on, although not necessarily in that order. And you would see us carrying on the business of the school with caution. And that's for us, and that's for you and your kids. So we are starting school because we believe that it is a critical endeavor. It is what we're doing as a family, what we're doing as a community and as a culture when we are thinking correctly to be forming our students. And it's not a project that we pause or truncate lightly. So we will proceed with caution. At this point, I'm going to go over to the website here. I'm going to show you where a few documents are. I'm going to just recount the history of how those came to be. And then I'm going to turn it over to a couple speakers who are going to get into some of the details that we've been working out even over the last few days as we've been on campus. Okay. So there's our lovely award-winning website, the Atonement Academy Crusaders. You can see we have our normal menus up top. Some of those are carrying over from when the pandemic first hit. Some of you may have been around to remember the COVID-19 tab. And then as weeks went by, that became the remote learning tab. And then as school ended, it became the Safe Return tab as we contemplated the fall. Under the Safe Return tab on the homepage of our website, you'll see in roughly the reverse order in which they were published, starting from the bottom, the Safe Return plan that we published on June 30th. June 30th. So when you're living in the pandemic, a couple days ago seems to be old news. No, it's this state that's trending now. The surge in that other state, that's gone down. Okay. No, it's this country or this lab's vaccine. We're hearing good things. No, it's this lab's. Well, these schools, well, that school. Okay. As much as possible, we've tried to weigh all of those things, pray for wisdom, and chart a steady course between extremes. It's been a time of extremes, hasn't it? We've tried to chart a course between those. So that came out June 30th. It's 6 pages. There are a lot of details there. Almost all of it is still guiding us. We've built on it. But I would recommend for your perusal, particularly the parts where we talk about how we're going to operate the school day, as well as the quarantine FAQ. So these are a series of if statements. If you find yourself, your child, your family in various situations of exposure or contraction of the virus, what we are asking you to do to help us keep other folks safe. After that was published, next, July 27th, Remote Learning FAQ. I notice a lot of new parents here tonight, and I never want to put new parents on the spot too much, but I'm going to a little bit now, kind of a roundabout. How many of you had a student at Atonement Academy who did remote learning fourth quarter of last year? Okay. So what we've tried to do since June 30th, and then in greater detail on July 27th, is differentiate what we did in remote learning as a reaction in the fourth quarter of 2020, and what we intend to do, not as a reaction, but as a purposeful move into the remote learning space in the 2021 school year. So you may remember in the Safe Return plan, last page, page 6, there's a T-chart that compares the two plans. This year's remote learning, if you find yourself in that situation, will be much more rigorous. I'm assuming, and I won't have hands up for this because for many it's a very personal decision, but I'm assuming most of the people who are here tonight are here primarily because they have not chosen for their student to do remote learning, but they've chosen for their child to be here, and they want to hear more details about what that's going to look like for them during the day. But even if you've not made that choice, it would be good to familiarize yourself with the broad strokes of that plan, and we'll be talking more about that later, because if you find your child in quarantine, they may very well be showing those symptoms and be perfectly capable of continuing with their education, given what we've learned about how children experience the virus. So they would, during that quarantine time, take advantage of remote learning. So it'd be good to be familiar with that. The next document, a letter from Mr. Watson, primarily as an introduction to the Safe Return Plan addendums. And those addendums add further detail to the Safe Return Plan and get more granular, drill down, and talk about specifics. So those are the documents that guide our practice. Much of what we've been doing the last 3 days in in-service has been a bit of a back and forth. It's been administration and teacher leaders sharing with the staff and faculty as they've returned how we are going to carry out what we've promised to do. Sometimes it involves particulars of travel through halls and when lockers will be accessible and when they won't. Sometimes it's a little more fun, like when all our full-time teachers got shiny new laptops so that they could run all the programs simultaneously that they need to do remote learning at a more rigorous level. But that's what we've been doing. So I'm going to introduce two people, starting with Dr. Tovar. This is a serious operation deciding to move forward with schooling during time of pandemic. As head of school, that's not something that I can farm out and check on every other week. It is the thing this year. And so while I'm very hands-on with that, I recognize there are multiple facets to a sound response to our times. And so in different areas, I've asked those with expertise and the ability to manage information, communicate well, to take authority over those areas at my delegation. Dr. Tovar, most days, ironically, we call her our school nurse. Suppose she's our school doctor. But she is an expert in health, and she has been training the staff on how to keep one another healthy and safe, and how to keep our kids healthy and safe. So I've asked her to share in a little more detail some of the ins and outs of how we are carrying out what we've promised to do in our Safe Return Plan and in the Safe Return addendums. So Dr. Tovar. Do you mind wearing this?
Yes, I guess I'm sorry, this is, I'm not very familiar with this structure, so let's see if you can do this. Oh, I'm doing it the wrong way. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So I am wearing my marks on purpose, just to mark a point, make a point, and that's something that we taught our teachers today to do. And it was like, we are allowing them to wear those facials. So, but I am asking them to do this every time they go to the blackboard. They're gonna be able to wear the facials, to please put first the facial, and then remove the mask with one hand, as you see. I was able to get these little clips, fancy clips, from Office Depot, Walmart, anywhere. And it might be a good idea for the children so that they can clip their mask inside out, so inside in, sorry. And to please not to touch it too much, and if they do, that they need to hand sanitize their hands. So as many of you know, and you're probably very familiar already with this disease, that it gets transmitted by droplets, like saliva droplets, that get aerolized when you talk, sneeze, cough. So I don't need to go further into details with that. Many of you are actually doctors, so you can explain it even better than me. Thank you. And so some of the procedures that we are explaining to the teachers to carry on and to try to form is that they, first, we need to educate our kids, our children, including mine, in different procedures so that they keep them safe, keep our children safe. That's our top priority. Yes, ma'am? Yes, sir? Okay. I'm sorry, I know that family. I usually don't do the talk. Mr. Watson here is the best for that. So, is to like educate our children, educate our parents, educate our teachers, so how to keep ourselves safe and how to keep everybody else safe. Within those, the first is to keep distances so that those droplets don't end up in your mouth, don't end up in your nose, no? So that you don't get sick. The other thing is to do the mask, wearing mask mandatory. For little children like the pre-kinders and kinders, we are allowed to use the face shield because actually even though it's not as recommended by the CDC, it's better for them so that they are not touching their faces, trying to accommodate the mask. Mostly if they haven't been practicing at home. If you will, you can send your child with the face shield and the mask if you want to keep them safer. That's okay. It's going to be up to the comfort of the child. No? For our teachers, well, they are going to be wearing their face shield while they are talking, giving the class. Then they are going to be wearing their mask when they approach. So for example, if I want to approach, like here, Mr. Watson, I unclip my mask, put it on, like this, then I can go ahead and cross the barrier of 6 feet. So get away, go ahead, unclip it, and continue talking. So that's the best procedure. For little children, definitely they need hands-on. So we need to get close to them to be able to teach them how to ride. So that's why we try to keep our face shield to prevent it and wearing a mask. We also set up like sanitation stations. That's the other step to keep our children safe, that they keep their hands clean because they're going to touch their faces. They're going to adjust their mask. So we provide them the supplies close to them, like for lower school. In each one of the desks, we are going to have a sanitation station. So if possible, we can have Clorox wipes, if not, paper towels with some kind of solution to clean, any house cleaning solution work, even alcohol. So just spray their desk, spray their hands, hand sanitizers. If they can find the very rare, like wet-ons wipes, they're wonderful for cleaning their hands. So that if they need to touch their nose or like move their mask, they can clean their hands right there. There is also, as soon as they enter the building, we will actually during Caroline take temperatures for each child to make sure they are coming safe from home so they are not exposing anybody else to being sick. We will have available during your welcome packages that the teachers are doing, there is going to be a handout included. So with different steps, like how to start introducing the children during the weekends to things that they need to do, like, okay, just don't go ahead and hug your teacher. I know you want and you would love to hug her. Let's try and just do like an elbow bump or something fun, so that they get interested, no? So as soon as they get check-in, they can enter. Please don't drive right away, so just in case we need you. So that way we can keep everybody safe, no? And also there's going to be hallways procedures. So for different passing periods, for like a lower school, we are trying to keep like different classes separated from each other. So that way we prevent cohorting and less cross-contamination. That means they are going to eat in their classrooms, or they're going to eat outside in the piazza with safe distances. That way they can get a little bit of sun and they can enjoy the food without the mask. So when they're enjoying their lunch in the classrooms, so we are going to ask them to remove their mask, eat, but if they need to stand up and walk around, they need to go ahead and pick up their mask, put it back on, sanitize their hand, and then they can go home. The procedures is going to be a little bit different for middle school and high school. Usually we don't allow them to carry like hand sanitizer in the pockets. This year we will. So that way, if the child needs to sanitize their hand, there is no, what is almost impossible, we have hand sanitation stations everywhere. So and that was another of these procedures that we implemented this year. So let me see. So when do we recommend for them to clean their hands? So before eating, before touching their faces so that their hands are clean. After using the restroom, even though they wash their hands, it's possible to use the hand sanitizer too. I don't know yet if we are going to include those videos, how to wash their hands, and still, as I say, this is going to be a plan that's going to be ever growing. So we are going to be expanding depending how the situation progresses. We will be adding and asking from you any input that you can provide us. We will take into consideration between the team, and we will put it as part of the plan. Okay, thank you. Sorry. There will be also, like when the children want to go to the restroom, so try to get one student at a time, maximum 2 per restroom, so that we avoid crowds during the restroom time. In the hallways, practicing social distancing is going to be hard for the teacher, but if anybody can manage it, it will be this set of teachers. Yeah, I'm totally confident they're amazing, and our children, they are already used to following certain rules, so it's going to be easy for them just to follow a few more. So try to make it fun for them, and try to, make them understand without making them afraid. So, because if we follow these certain rules, we are going to keep everybody safe. So if we don't follow it, then yes, we will see 1, 2, a few persons getting sick. If that happens, we will have protocols in place depending on each case. We are going to analyze each one of the cases, and we will follow procedures. So that means that either part of the classroom gets isolated, sent home, the whole classroom gets isolated, sent home, the whole section of the school gets isolated, sent home. And every time that happens, we have to sanitize everything and go back to class if possible. So if we have a major breakout, then we will have to follow procedure and probably move on to remote learning. So it's wonderful. We already have the tools, so it will be easy to do. The same with recess for the children, so they can play outside. They won't be using the playground, but we are going to try to implement like safe games for them to be able to exercise, get the energy out, and have fun still have their break during the day. Let me see. Okay. During passing periods like going to music, we will have them follow certain set of stairs so that they don't cross pathway with other children. There are no cross ways. That way they can keep their distance safe. As soon as they enter the classroom, sanitize their hand, go sit down, and proceed with class. Let me see. One thing that we really will ask everybody, every parent, is that to monitor your child. So get familiar with the symptoms for COVID-19. Your son is running a fever and you don't know why. Like, it has also shortness of breath. So if running a fever has shortness of breath, it's very unlikely that it will have asthma. So it usually just gets shortness of breath and uses an inhaler and is fine afterwards. Yeah, there's no COVID-19. Please let us know. Communicate with us. Assess your child daily, and then we all can be safe that way. So for now, if you have any questions, so I'm probably missing many of these points. These shields are a little bit blurry, so I cannot read it. Yeah.
We'll take questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for your opportunity. Please don't hesitate to call me, to send me an email. Very important. If your child forgets a mask, we will have masks available for the children. However, they are limited. Please don't forget every day. We won't be able to accommodate 300 students every day. So, but if they need or gets broken or anything happens to the mask, we will have them available for them. So, that's it. Thank you so much. Okay. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Father. Perfect. Yeah. There we go. Thank you. All right, a couple quick follow-up comments on what Dr. Tovar shared. Again, as you have questions, we're going to have some time for that at the end, but it'll be a good idea to contact her with detailed questions and she can give you detailed answers. So her email address, a little different than the rest of ours, it's health@atonementonline.com. So that'll be Dr. Tovar's email. A couple things she mentioned that I just wanted to follow up on briefly. There are sanitation stations either in each classroom or they've been marked on the wall and just not screwed in yet. So these are right next to the doors. And part of the first day script and procedures that each teacher will go over will involve, okay, here's how we're going to use the restrooms. Here's what happens before lunch. Here's how we stay clean, how we sanitize, how we wash our hands. So she has led, Dr. Tovar has led the faculty through those points, and each teacher is developing their own age-appropriate way for how they're going to convey those to their students. Second thing I'd just follow up on briefly, she mentioned our teachers and how they're on top of things, and that's so true. One of the things I've thought about several times, as not every school or district has made the decision we have, is that we are a school of about 270 students, with our average teacher possessing extended tenure and experience at this school. Schools can differ, but I would be thinking very differently about this situation if there was a 30 or 40% turnover among the staff every year. This is not that school. These are folks who are here long-term, who have learned to work together over many lesser trials and will come together well as we face a more challenging situation. So I want to point that out. And then the last thing Dr. Tovar mentioned, and it's just worth amplifying. We can do this perfectly. We're not, but let's say theoretically, we could do this perfectly at a school. Well, this is a permeable community. So your family's practices and movements, we're not going to get involved with them, but I would like you to consider when your child has a fever or when they're showing symptoms at home, that's the best place for you to decide, well, maybe today's not the day to go to school, let's go get tested. It may be, I have 6 kids, and I understand as well as anyone how inconvenient that can be for the adults in the equation trying to run their day. But we're going to ask for your cooperation as well to follow the guidelines in the Safe Return Plan for when it's okay to come to school and when we're going to ask your help in keeping the whole community safe. So just keep that in mind. That was a good point. All right, so if Dr. Tovar is the point person for one half of this layer that we're putting on top of our normal school operations, what we're calling Safe Return or the Safe Return Plan, the other side of this is remote learning. So how do we move forward as a school without leaving behind those crusaders who are not ready to send their kids back to school? We don't want that to be the parting of ways. So the Safe Return Plan, Dr. Tovar, heading up the remote learning side of the equation is Assistant Head of School, Mr. Creech, and I'm going to turn things over to him now to tell you a little more about how that's going to work. And as I said before, we are not necessarily assuming that you're here because you've chosen remote learning. Very likely there's other campus-based concerns on your mind, but you may find yourself in that situation, and certainly there are components of that which it'll be good to know about that will touch on the rest of the operations. So Mr. Creech, if you'll let us transition briefly. Okay. Hold on to that. I'll bring some sanitizer over here. I'll bring some sanitizer over here. That's handy for us.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to address a few additional details. Some of this will overlap with what Dr. Tovar covered that have to do with a safe return before I move into remote learning, some issues with remote learning. One thing I want to point out is Carline. Carline will look a little bit different this year, so if you're dropping your kids off and need to pick them up, they're coming to the school, they'll be on campus, then please look in the forms and documents section of the website, and you'll see the Carline diagrams. And what you'll notice there, really for drop-off, the only thing that's different is that we will start taking students at 7:25, a little earlier, just to allow us a little more time to do the temperature checks and get everyone safely in the building. For the pickup in the afternoon, the difference will be that we're going to have the 2 lines as we did last year. The difference will be that the lower school will be in reverse order. So 6th grade was kind of at the end of the piazza last year. They're going to be basically closer to where the cars start lining up in the afternoon. And we're going to do this in a way that's where we can spread them out. And so they'll be going basically from 6th grade all the way down to pre-K3. Pre-K3 will be releasing basically near the entrance to the church. If we need, we'll be releasing them from the nave of the church. Pre-K4, if you have a pre-K4 student, they will release from the same place they did last year, which is Mrs. Lozano's classroom that's there between the gym and the front doors. Okay, so please take a look at that document so you're familiar with the slight changes in the procedure for Carline. Okay, so just a few things about passing periods, although Dr. Tovar did mention those. I noticed some of you might have students who are not just lower school students, but actually in the middle or upper school. I'm going to just give you a brief rundown of some of the things we're doing. I'm going to address that more specifically tomorrow night when we're talking to the middle school and upper school parents. But basically what you should know is that we have the middle school in this middle section, the middle and upper school in the middle section of the building. We have changed and moved classrooms around so that we could put the largest classes in the largest classrooms and thus spread everyone out and achieve that 6 feet physical distancing. So middle school and upper school are going to be in the middle of the building. On the far reaches of campus, basically, are the lower school. So over here in the old lower school building, you're going to have pre-K 3, pre-K 4 will still be in the same place, but pre-K 3 through second grade, all on the first floor of the old lower school building. What last year was the high school wing is basically the upper lower school, okay, the third grade through sixth grade, and they will all be over there because those rooms are bigger, and those are the larger class sizes. So we did that to achieve, the physical distancing of 6 feet in the classroom. Just briefly, so middle school and upper school, in case you have a child that's going to be in middle school and upper school and you're not coming back tomorrow night, they will be going to their lockers 3 times a day and 3 times a day only. So that's going to take some getting used to for them. They're going to have to plan ahead, okay? And that's all going to be staggered, how that works per grade. And I won't go into the details of that, but I talked to the teachers today. They're going to get the rundown on exactly what that choreographed staggering looks like. But they'll only go 3 times a day, and that way they're not on top of each other when they go to their lockers. The 7th and 8th grade lockers are in one section, and the 9th through 12th grade lockers are in another section. So they're not going to be on top of each other. 7th and 8th grade will be using one staircase, and the upper school will be using another staircase. So I sat down over the weekend and penciled out the movements from one class to another as the middle school and upper school students will be moving from class to class, and made sure that this looks good and is going to be safe. And that's going to be fine, but I want to make sure that those crucial points, like lockers, transitions, they're still spread out and we don't have people on top of each other. So just in case you have a child who's going to be in middle school and upper school. Music, we have safety procedures in place for that. Music is going to be, they're going to be in the largest spaces we have if they're indoors, and they're going to be wearing masks and they're going to be spread out. If they're indoors, we are looking into some professional purifiers. The music staff tells us that we're looking into getting those that apparently studies have been done that it can take 90% of the aerosolized spray out of the air, even for an opera singer, so a professional opera singer. So if they're going to be indoors, we'll have something like that, and they're going to be spread out and wearing masks as they're singing. Lunches are going to be for all grades. They're going to be in the classroom. Okay, they'll be in the classroom, and 11th and 12th graders will give an opportunity to go outside, sit in the piazza, monitored by teachers so that we make sure they're spread out, but they'll have that privilege as they've had in previous years. Recess will be a time for them to get outdoors, a time to take a break from the mass, but to do that, we're making sure that we're organizing those recesses carefully so that social distancing is maintained during that time. Okay, and then there have been some PE communications that have gone out. Please pay attention to those. They address the situation with PE. Coach Vidal sent out a communication, I believe, yesterday. So please be on the lookout for that, review that, and know that they're doing everything they can to keep things safe. An example of this is lower school kids will not be using lockers. They will come either doing PE in their regular clothes, or they'll have their gym clothes already on underneath their uniform so that they can get busy with PE and not have to congregate in a small space like the locker room. And another thing I told the teachers today, just to kind of set the tone for this, I told them to take time in going over these procedures and protocols with the children. Don't be in a rush. The education is important, and that's why we're coming back to school, but don't be in a rush, because really when it comes down to it, we're doing a lot more than a lot of other schools are able to do at this point. And so we'll be accomplishing a lot more even when we slow down and take the time to make sure that these procedures and practices are being followed and understood by the students. Okay, remote learning. Let me go through a few things about remote learning. Mr. Watson mentioned that it's probably going to be just as important. Hopefully not, but it may be just as important for a student coming back to campus to be familiar with remote learning and what we're putting in place as it is for those who've chosen to do remote learning. And the reason for that is because we've set up remote learning precisely so we can flex very easily and transition without missing a step if we have to, say, shut down a class, second grade if there's an outbreak, or some part of the school, or just individuals need to quarantine, but they themselves are not showing any significant symptoms and are capable of continuing with their work. So we'll have our remote learning in place. It'll even accommodate the traditional students who are coming back to campus if they'd like to take advantage of that, because they'll be able to move seamlessly into remote learning if they have to quarantine. So as we've said in multiple places, we're trying to meet the same instructional objectives as the students that are here on campus. To do that, we've elected to do what's called synchronous learning, which basically means the kids at home are participating and present remotely with the students that are here at school. Okay, so they'll be on for live class sessions. Now for lower school, the flexibility we're offering to parents, because parents have to be a little more involved in that process with younger kids, is that you may watch the recordings at a time that's convenient for you. However, you're encouraged, right, and certainly welcome to join with the class for live class sessions, okay? And you'll basically follow the schedule that your kid would otherwise follow if they were here at school. Let me just describe what that will kind of look like. We've set teachers up with a laptop. It's got a webcam. It's got audio. We have a projector, and we're still waiting on some document cameras, but we do have some, and those are coming in. But the idea will be that the teacher can address the kids at home as well as the kids in class, can have notes, say on a PowerPoint. It could be a Word document, and they could be even typing those notes out as they're speaking. They can share that, screen share that with the kids at home. It can be projected onto the board so that the kids in the class can see it. Even discussions, if they wanted to have classroom discussions, the kids at home can be involved in that discussion, because you can project the Zoom conference so that the kids in the class can see their counterparts, their classmates at home, and they can participate in that discussion. So just to give a brief sketch of what that can look like, live and interactive for both kids in the classroom, kids at home. Getting as close as we possibly can to making it look and feel like what it would look like if a remote student were in the classroom. Another part of this is our learning management system. If you were here in the spring and you did remote learning then, you'll know we had kind of the clunky Faxis RenWeb system. Well, they've improved that, and they've made it look a lot like Google Classroom. So during our remote learning run-through, for those who are choosing remote learning, on August 10th, that's this coming Monday, students and parents will get a little more familiar with that. But basically, it's a place to go where it's a dashboard. It shows all of the different classes that your student takes. You click on that, you can see what the assignments are, when they're due, what's planned for the day. Very easy to use. It's also a place that if assignments have to be uploaded and submitted, that's the place where they go. There'll be more training on that coming, but just so you know that is out there, and I think that's going to be a vast improvement over what we were using in the spring. There will be behavioral expectations, which teachers will also be going over with remote students. There will be expectations for what they should do and how they should behave, even though they're at home. One thing I'm sure students will be interested in is, will they have to wear their uniform? Yes, they will have to wear their uniform because they are part of that class. Their classmates may see them if they're having a discussion. They're going to be part of that class, and it kind of provides the sense of, dignity and, seriousness of purpose that goes along with being in school. Now, we can't dictate what's going to happen below the screen. So, they're wearing, if they're wearing comfortable shorts and they've got their shirt and tie on, that's fine, right? But yes, they will need to wear the uniforms. And there are other expectations about how do you raise your hand? How do you get the teacher's attention? Can I sit there and have my dog in my lap while I'm on Zoom in class? Can I be eating and drinking? All those things, we're going to have clear expectations for, and the teachers will cover that with the students and parents. Okay, that will happen during the run-through again. So if your child is doing remote learning, we're having that remote learning run-through on August 10th, Monday, August 10th, so this coming Monday. I'm sure you probably have other questions, and we will have time for questions, so I'm going to leave any other details you might like to know for those questions. Thank you very much.
While I'm setting this up, I do need to point out a couple other folks. We often laud our teachers here at Atonement, and they're really what make the school what it is. But this year, more than ever, I think it's going to highlight the in-between times and the in-between tasks that keep things running smoothly and safely. And we have Mrs. Joyner, our admissions director, in the back, and Mrs. Johnston helping us tonight, and you saw Mrs. Powell on your way in. So our faculty, our staff, staff's attending in service along with the faculty, because we're already a team, but this is making us more of a team, and we're going to do this together. And we're all picking up the extra parts to keep each other and to keep your kids safe. The hardest part, I was trying to put my finger on it. I love school. I'm excited for school to start, but you don't get up at a meeting like this and get too excited. It's a sober thing we're contemplating, but I'm truly excited. Our teachers are excited. Saying things like, finally, because this is our vocation. Sure, everyone likes some time off, but only so much before that ache inside of us to do what we were created to do starts coming up. So we are excited. At the same time, we're taking this seriously. So maybe like so many things in the Christian life, we're holding a couple things in tension right now. And we'll just live in that tension as long as we need to. So for the joy set before us, we're starting the school year. Now, we're going to put ourselves on the spot here, and while we don't have all the answers, we've been spending most of our waking hours thinking about this stuff. So what I'm going to do is because this going back and forth can get a little awkward, I'm going to quarterback that question and answer time, pass the ball around a little, and if we need to get someone else up here on the mic for a particular question where they have the expertise or insight, I'm going to get them up here quick. But what I might do is I might repeat the question for our audience at home. And then after they share, I might give a synopsis of what they say. So if you can just work with us on that, I'd appreciate it. But you made the time to be with us, so we want to answer any questions you have to the best of our ability. So you can raise your hand if you have a question. Is that you, Mrs. Scott? Good to see you. Yes. No. I'm going to just repeat your question and just go like this if I've got it wrong. Mrs. Scott is asking, okay, that remote learning run-through that's going to happen on August 10th, essentially you're saying, is that going to be online or are we coming back here? Give me more details about that. We can do it. I'll give a synopsis.
Okay, yes. So I've got a page document of bullet points of things that you need to know to be prepared for the remote learning run-through on August 10th. That's how to log in, what we'll be covering, a schedule, and we have the Crusader Times coming out hopefully tomorrow, and that should be included in that. So that will be available very soon, and you should have everything you need to know certainly by Friday, no later than that, so that you'll be prepared to get on Monday. And that really is a run-through. It's an opportunity. I mean, teachers may start introducing some things, but it's really an opportunity to set the behavioral expectations for those students who are doing remote learning, to run through the use of the LMS and some other housekeeping items that pertain strictly to the remote students.
My kids are coming, but let's say for whatever reason they don't want to switch to remote. Should we do this on Monday? Like when we can? In a month that I don't know how to do the remote, are we going to train now? Are we going to train?
Right. No, it's a good question. I think what we'll do is, don't worry if you're planning on bringing your students, your kids. Don't worry about being on for that. We'll make sure that you get the information you need, and in fact, it'll help us work out some kinks probably, because I will have to ask of some patience and understanding of families as we get the remote learning going. We've been working on it, but it hasn't actually gone live yet, and there's likely to be some kinks we have to work out. So I think that those who are traditional students bringing their students back to campus, we'll get you trained up if that happens. It'll be a pretty easy transition.
And again, for the original question, yes, that's online Monday. So what you can do if you're going to have remote students, just block that time out. Mr. Creech and I were looking at a draft of those instructions before we walked down here. So it's all together. It's just a little trepidation putting it out, but it should go out tomorrow, either in or before the Thursday Crusader Times. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Will that practice run be like in the early afternoon or morning for people that are not available at that time?
So details coming together, but for instance, with the upper school, middle and upper school, where live is going to be required, we're probably going to follow the schedule pretty closely. But you know, for our benefit, we haven't sent it out yet. You're saying, man, if you could keep it as tight as possible on that day, we'll try. Now, remind me, you guys were new? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, Yeah, no, and we're going to stick around after we kind of get off air, and we'll be at your disposal. So you just ask us whatever you want, okay? We did send a save the date on that quite a bit ago, which you would not have been privy to. So let's talk after this, and we'll figure it out. So as Mr. Creech said, in large part, that's going to be for our benefit, so we don't, trip up too badly when it's for real. Okay. Yes, Ms. Seeley.
Is there an option if we don't want to do the car line, we want to walk to the door? Is it possible?
Yes, and this is something, talking through every scenario, and this was one line that didn't make it in the addendums. The key for us in car line, and it's not a silver bullet, but it's one of the best practices, is we want to get a temperature before the parent drives away. Because we don't want this just for appearances, to the extent that this is a safety measure. We want to take it seriously. So if you would walk them, what we're going to ask is that parents not just drop them off in the parking lot, wave, and drive away. We want them with them up to the point where they're getting their temperature.
But my kids are little, so I want to walk them to the door,
And we want you to.
mark the floor that we
There'll be guidance. There'll be about 3 or 4 people, a few in the car line, and then probably one near the door. And we'll just have to gauge what our traffic looks like. Is it mostly coming through the line? Are we getting a lot of walk-ins, and we'll shift? But the key is just we want either parent in the car with the student next to it, taking temperature, or if you're parking in the parking lot, just walk them in. You won't have any trouble. Not a problem. Mr. Coquetti.
I didn't see if this was in the safe return, and because it doesn't really even apply to me. But if you have more than one child and one of those children gets a high temperature and sit home, do the rest of the children of that family? Do they come in, or do they check, or what's? It doesn't apply to me. I only got one.
Yeah, no, great question. So not being able to recite the language perfectly, maybe that's something we can pull up right after we get off air. I've got it right there. But that page on the Safe Return Plan, Quarantine FAQs covers that situation. And if you grab me before you leave, let's just pull it up real quick and I'll point you at it.
I was more curious than
Yeah, we have the base covered, so we tried with that. Obviously, we could envision maybe dozens of scenarios. We try to keep it to the basics, and then the in-betweens will work off of those principles. So if you have a moment after, I'll show you where it is.
It just gets complicated fast.
Yeah, we're gonna try to keep it as uncomplicated as possible, doing things like this, communicating, and getting all our people who are here during the day on the same page, so that if you talk to anyone, you're getting the same answer. That's a lot of what we're working on right now. Was there? Yes, ma'am.
Earlier, we were talking about the restroom situation. Is there going to be someone monitoring how many kids are going, especially if you have kids from other classes going into the restroom?
Yeah, so this was something that on the ground is a real life concern. So that came up actually today, and we directed teams of teachers who are clustered in different parts of the building or buildings, certain hall areas, and that frequent certain bathrooms, to propose their own plans for monitoring and keeping stable and distanced the use of those restrooms. And when we brought that up, the teachers, they'd already been getting on that on their own in their areas. So those are being finalized as we speak, but there has been thought and attention given to it and will continue to be. And again, just to reiterate what I said earlier, I recognize that there's a whole range of questions that could come up. Some of them play well through the microphone, and some are better, one-on-one with one of us after we sign off. So just know that Mr. Creech and I will be around, Dr. Tovar, for you to chat with. But is there anything else for the good of the whole that might be helpful to others? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'll try to forget. I have been teaching my daughter ways that she should keep her area clean and her hands clean and not her mask and stuff. And if they don't see eye to eye, like if I have an extra step of using a Lysol wipe or something that the teacher doesn't talk about, will she still be able to do that in the classroom?
So, and maybe that's something for us to kind of parse a little more after, but in general, we have already asked our teachers, and Mr. Creech alluded to this earlier, hey, maybe we aren't going to be off and running curricularly as quickly as in previous years, because there are some things we're really going to nail down before we get up to speed. And one of those is the last few minutes, and each class will have a procedure. There's going to be desk wipe down whenever there's a new set of students coming in, which will be a much more frequent occurrence, of course, with our 7th through 12th students who see multiple teachers in the day. But yes, that's a part of our thinking, and if you have specific concerns or hopes for how that could play out, just catch one of us after. Yes, Mrs. Scott, you're good.
Just to come up, our personal sanitizing little carriers going to be allowed to uniforms, the dead bath, little pocket packs?
Yes, yes, Dr. Tovar spoke to that. I know in the past, what were we thinking? It was just one of the things, it was one of those rules, don't carry that around in your pocket. Well, it's a new era.
Okay, so that's okay?
Yeah.
It's not a uniform, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Mrs. Horton.
Are we still going to have before school and after school care this year?
Great question. Yes, we are, and that's coming together as we speak. Mrs. Johnston's the point person for that. One exception being not the first day of school. We did, and I hope you all caught that, and you know we always want to give you 2 weeks or more warning, but just the more we pondered it, it's going to help us get off to a good start to stagger that first day a little. So in the morning only, there won't be before school care, but there will be after school care. Good question. Guys, I can't wait to see your kids. I know I speak for all of us. Thanks to our staff who were here tonight and who will remain here to be of service to you as you need it. And if not, have a great evening. God bless and stay safe. Thank you.